Welcome back to this Nextlander podcast, the Nextlander audio empire. Empire? That's not a good word anymore.
Hasn't been for some time, but you can come up with a version of that is not the profoundly evil version of it, I suppose.
Well, Alex, what should we call? What do you the Nextlander audio co-op?
No. Look, hey, we're equal partners. I guess you could call us a co-op, but
it's co-op. It's a fine co-op.
Feels like opting that term in a way that maybe is not intended for.
Sure, Brad, do you have any better words to swap in here?
Artisanal, farm to table.
There you go.
Audio.
How about the Nextlander audio concern? We are a going concern.
It's always a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned right now.
Name a not evil challenge. Or sorry, name a not evil empire challenge.
Name a not evil empire challenge.
Empire Records.
Okay, all right.
Were they ever evil though? I'm sure
might have been like at a retail level of evil, but that's about it.
Empire State Building, evil.
Yeah, can be, depending on what light color scheme they've got going on.
You know how many dark things are happening underneath that building?
Yeah.
Speaking of evil, I feel like as I'm getting older,
You're getting more evil?
I'm getting more, that's where I was going. I'm just getting more evil. My resting face has become more evil, and I find myself people asking me if I'm okay when I'm just listening to someone now.
Are you okay?
No, generally not. But I took my passport's expired, and my wife and I were taking new passport photos, and she was like, "Wow, you just look so mad. Why do you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to have a neutral face." They asked me not to smile in my TSA pre-check photo, and I assume that maybe they don't want you to smile in like government IDs or something. I don't know. But I was like,
they wanted to match your eventual mugshot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When they scan it, they want when the AI needs to put all the points on your face, you don't want to throw it off. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe is that gravity doing its work and just turning that frown upside down, or is it just the weight of the world?
If anything, it's pulling that frown further down.
Yeah, this is already upside down. That frown is going downtown. How do I stop it?
Brad's shaking his head.
No notes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pull that frown further down.
I mean, look, I don't think I've been in a particularly smiley. I don't think anybody's been in a particularly smiley mood, jaunty mood, walking around.
Not remotely.
I was walking down the street with my kid. I was walking her to school and was doing kind of a silly walk, just because I was the kid, and somebody else passed me by and be like, "Huh, happy today, huh?" So I was just like, "Gotta fake it till you make it, bud." Just that's what's happening on the streets.
Thanks for the street report.
Yeah,
Vinny out here on these streets.
Just basically somebody being like, "The fuck you so happy about?" Ain't nothing happy out there, man.
I'm scowling over here.
Don't be happy on my streets, you happy guy. Yeah, I don't know. I got put on the good front for the kids sometimes.
Yeah.
They're going off to school. Got to send them in as happy as you possibly can.
Luckily for you, you have thousands of hours of experience streaming video on the internet.
It's true.
So you have plenty of experience putting on a good face.
That's right. Just what's going on out there? I don't care. I'm here to talk about Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Jackbox Party Pack 10, and maybe some Assassin's Creed. Some of those things make me happier than others.
That sounds
which
ominous.
one? You'll find out next episode. That's been the Nextlander podcast. Cliffhanger time.
This is just the check-in episode.
Let's get in. Let's start with Super Mario Brothers Wonder, because this came out.
It's new.
Right after not right after, but pretty close after we finished.
Basically right after.
Yeah. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the next in the Super Mario Brothers series of games. You may be familiar; they do quite well.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I can tell you is I think at this point in my life, aside from having a very angry-looking resting face, I think I enjoy the pure 3D kind of more narrative-driven Odyssey Galaxy style
narrative-driven.
Narrative, you say?
Yes, okay. When you think about Mario Odyssey and at least Mario Galaxy, you're going out there and you're kind of completing a story, right?
I will say Odyssey, yes. Odyssey did have more story than I would.
And Galaxy, you're getting those shine bits for Rosalina, and then you're doing the whole thing.
And what was that story?
In Odyssey? Bowser's gonna marry Peach. You gotta stop that.
Bowser has kidnapped Peach, and you have to get her back.
They have turned the Mario narrative on its head.
It's not
story. You got a hat.
It's not story as such, but that whole ending sequence on the moon in Mario Odyssey, definitely more kind of cinematic than I would have expected. I was quite impressed.
I think that's maybe more what you're actually getting at, is the idea of something that is a little bit more cinematic and involved that way, because narrative... There is a narrative in Mario, and it is the same narrative every single time.
But in Odyssey and also in Galaxy, not Galaxy 2, but Galaxy, there are kind of points in the story where something might take a slight turn, or you've thought you've reached Bowser, but the princess was in another castle, let's say. These things happen.
That's some M. Night Shyamalan shit, man. That's the level of twist we're talking about here.
Look, you're in the Flower Kingdom here. There's a centipede prince on your shoulder.
He lives in your brain.
That's a story.
So this is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. This is much more akin to, and people have said it before. I forget who said it, Brad. This is the successor to Super Mario Brothers World.
You mean Super Mario World?
Super Mario World. Sorry. No.
GameSpot said that. GameSpot's review, I think, called it like the rightful successor to Super Mario World.
I can see it.
Or something.
I could see it. I don't agree with it.
I can see it. I don't know. I haven't played through the whole thing yet, so that's a pretty lofty claim to have to justify until you've seen the whole thing. But
you're not riding a Yoshi. You could be a Yoshi.
You can ride a Yoshi if someone else is playing the Yoshi.
Is Yoshi an essential Mario component? I would argue no.
Okay. All right, look, I kind of agree with you.
I think it's more essential than some of the other components that you see from frequently, but...
Is it necessary, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, can you have a Mario game without Yoshi?
Yes.
In today's economy?
I would have said you couldn't have a Mario game without Charles Martinet, but look at me.
Have you seen the price of Yoshi feed these days?
Can you have a proper Mario game without a Bowser?
Yes. It's called Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yes,
is it a proper Mario game?
You absolutely can. Wart has not gotten his due over the years.
Yeah, people are way too harsh on King Wart.
Harsh on?
Yeah, that dude totally should have appeared in another one of these games as a primary villain again.
Sure.
I've said it before. I mean, the lineage of Mario 2 is well known. It was adapted from an existing game, so that's where the whole picking up and throwing mechanic came from. But I've said this before, like, what if every single Mario game had a different set of mechanics?
They're getting close.
Instead of after 2 being weird offshoot, and also there's the whole US 2 versus Japanese 2. That's a different
story.
Anyway, what if they had not gone straight back to jumping on shells and kicking them?
Oh, I see.
And punching blocks from below?
You mean completely different?
Yes. Like, what if every single Mario had like a totally different set of mechanics?
Like if we stayed in the Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, the Adventures of Link and Doki Doki Panic style Mario, that level of like, let's just try something different here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nah.
What if instead of jumping on an enemy, you didn't smush it, you just rode on its back until you picked it up and threw it somewhere?
So the thing is, I'm with you, but unfortunately, we are always going to be defeated in this argument because the 2 games that came after Super Mario Brothers 2 are 2 of the greatest video games ever made.
I mean, yes.
We can't have that argument anymore, unfortunately.
You're right. Yes.
Look, what you got was a floaty jump, a high jump on Luigi, a floaty jump on the princess. Toad runs fast. These are the things that we got from Super Mario Brothers 2.
Picks up fast.
Yeah, picks up fast.
Oh, picks up fast.
Mario just does everything normal.
They kind of ditched, I feel like, the picks up fast and just went with Toad runs fast or moves fast. But this doesn't have any of that.
Yeah, there's no picking up in this game, really.
Toad and Princess, the only characters worth playing in that game.
In Super Mario Brothers 2. I tried to explain, I thought it would be fun to explain Super Mario Brothers 2 and Doki Doki Panic to my kid. it was maybe interesting for a hot second, but there is no love for Super Mario Brothers. No, there's no oddity right there because it's such a historical thing that's not like, hey man, did you know? And he's like, I don't. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
if that's not a game you got for your birthday from your grandmother, you don't have any real affection for it necessarily.
Or very conspicuously for me, the game where a kid I knew who I was not exactly friends with, but got the game. And I engineered the, hey, maybe I could go over to your house.
Your new best friend.
Hey, that's how I played Mega Man 2 for the first time.
Played Mario 2 all afternoon and then never went back.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
The actual game we're talking about.
The game we're talking about, out now on the Switch. It is a lot of fun. It is kind of left to right platforming. It is not a full-on behind-the-back Mario game. It is more in the vein of a 2D style platformer with a lot of hijinks. There's a little bit of top-down as well if you get the right bonus level. Ooh. And also you have a little like overworld map where you run around. So it's mashing a couple of things from the recent games.
Yeah, but this is the next game in the Super Mario Brothers franchise.
In the lineage.
Yeah, it's got
a mainline Mario game.
It's a mainline Mario. It's like
I'm saying that.
Let's not. I mean, I'm about to do it as I'm saying let's not. I'm absolutely going to jump feet first into this, but
I
mean, the 3D games were the mainline games. But then they looped back around to the Brothers 2D games. So, shit, man. Maybe they're all mainline games.
I think that also could be an accurate argument. I don't care.
When you say 3D,
Super Mario,
mean like 64 and Odyssey and Galaxy, not 3D World.
Okay.
I think 3D World is.
Is Super Mario 64 the sequel to Super Mario World? That's the question. That's the fundamental question that we as a society need to answer before we can move on.
Are you saying is that Super Mario Brothers 5 or is the numbering completely meaningless?
Well, I mean, this also brings the Yoshi's Island question into the conversation, which nobody wants to deal with.
No.
I'm going to say, and feel free to add or dismiss, but I'm going to say there's a few taxonomies. Like, we got to go down a couple of lines of Mario here. There are Mario 1, 2, 3, World, the 2D ones, right? And I'm gonna put those in a category. And then there are the 3D ones, and you put those in a category, like Odyssey and 64 and Galaxy. Then you get the new Super Mario Brothers stuff, which we don't invite them to Thanksgiving in my house. They kind of live over there. And then you get the World and Land stuff, which are also very good, but they're closer to the 1, 2, and 3, I think, in Worlds.
They're kind of hybrid.
Yeah, they're kind of hybrid. I think
they have the kind of structure and spirit of the 2D games, but with a 3D camera, 3D-ish, 2.5D.
You overworld, you can run around your 3D characters. So I'm going to put those with the world stuff on that side and Yoshi's Island on that stuff. And I'm going to separate the 3D ones, and I'm going to separate the new Super Mario Brothers stuff. Because
new is its own thing.
That's its own thing. And then, of course, we're not talking about the RPG stuff or the Paper Mario stuff.
No, that is, in fact, a whole other lineage outside of what we're talking about.
But if you're talking about platforming games, I think that's how this goes. And this one is a little odd because I think it takes things from new Super Mario, like the 4-player co-op and stuff. They get rid of the collision, which thank God they get rid of that. And
yeah, that does help.
Don't tell me otherwise. It's got the overworld running around map from like the 3D worlds and land stuff where you kind of just run around this overworld map, selecting where you want to go, collecting star bits or shines, or in this case, what are they, seeds?
Wonder seeds?
Wonder seeds to open up the next things.
Hamons, because they look like big ham hocks for some reason.
They do look like delicious hams.
But like ham hocks that taste like blueberry.
Yes, depending on which world you're in, they do have slightly different color schemes.
And the kind of hook here, aside from becoming an elephant so far, is
or a bubble man,
or the bubble man is during most of the main levels, you can kind of touch this flower and get dizzy. You can touch a flower and it kind of does a weird thing to the level, some trippy business to the level.
This is basically just tripping balls mode.
Secret zone.
Yeah, secret zone. And
does every single level have one of those?
Every main level seems to have one.
Okay.
Anything that isn't like a challenge level or a side thing.
Yeah, and they seem to hide a wonder seed behind it.
Yes, that seems like that seems like the here's the unique mechanic for this level thing in this game. Like hitting that, like engaging that mode is going to reveal whatever cool idea they can. Because that's been the thing with these games for the last decade or something, right? It's like I would love to know what their like tool chain looks like for coding new mechanics in these games, because there's so goddamn many of them that I have to assume they are doing some high level thing where like designers can probably contribute. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you don't need a coder to like every time a level designer has a cool idea, they don't have to be like go get a programmer and be like, hey, could you like make 80 of these for this game, like 80 of my ideas here on this notebook paper page into actual mechanics. Like it's just impressive how much they cram into these games.
So that's kind of the world mechanic they have there. I mean, there are new suits, like we said, the elephant suit and the bubble suits, and that's kind of what I've gotten so far. I went back and I started playing with my kids in 3-player mode. There is an online setting where you basically can take your play session online to see ghosts running around, which adds a similar functionality to the local co-op, like revives. Like if you die, if you can slap somebody's character or this cardboard cutout they can make, this little poster of them, you can get revived in the game, and that works in co-op as well. You kind of are a ghost for a number of seconds and you can get revived there.
I keep staring at those ghosts, trying to figure out if that's like if at least in some cases, if it's actually asynchronous, like they're not actually playing live at the same time that they recorded ghost data. But the revive stuff makes it seem like it's probably all actually live.
I have seen some people turn around and come back to grab me as a ghost.
Right.
So I assume, like, I've seen ghosts on mine that I've turned around to go get too. And also, they do things where, like, it'll say, like, Yoshi finished the level. And you're like, well, I don't know. Did Yoshi and I start the level at the same time? Or is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, the main reason I was wondering if they could, like, sub ghost recordings in is, like, what happens in 5 years when nobody's really playing this game on the daily anymore. Like, is that feature just dead?
I totally think that they could just put recorded ghosts in there for people and start them when you start the level, right? So that you're kind of on the same page. It's also kind of helpful, and we did a stream of this on Friday when it came out. There are secrets in Mario games, as you might know if you're not aware. There are secret things in it, and it's kind of helpful to see the ghosts kind of poking around the level too, where things might be, and little Dark Souls is. I think Brad, you said that. It was like,
or
Dark Souls in your Mario.
It's a weird.
Yeah, it has that a little bit of that FromSoft thing.
It's a weird feature for Nintendo.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really the hook of it. I mean, the gameplay wise, it plays fine, jumps fine, moves fine, platforms fine.
There's the other thing, which is the one thing that I think is actually maybe my one significant beef with this game, which is the badge system.
Beef. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I was going to come in here and just be like, dude, the badge is like, what the fuck? A Mario game with equipable passive abilities, but go on.
So my problem with it is not the array of abilities that they give you. I think those abilities are all pretty cool, at least the ones that I've played around with so far. I felt like, okay, this is a neat thing to add. This adds some interesting dynamics. The problem is I don't like them as these selectable abilities. I wish this was something... These were things you could play with in more discrete levels that are like specifically designed more often around those abilities. There are puzzles in some levels where it feels like, okay, if you have this ability equipped, you can tackle this thing or you can go to this hidden area or whatever, but you have to play them first. There isn't a lot there that's like designed specifically for those abilities because they can't guarantee that you're going to be playing with one ability or another.
I'm with you. Like, you wish it just kind of pick the thing for the level. And that was or
even if they just said straight up, hey, this is a level where there are these puzzles in here. Maybe you should try this.
There is a Prince recommendation.
Princess Choice.
Princess Choice.
There's a Princess Choice button where the prince will pick the badge.
But is he doing that for a reason, or is he doing that just based on like, hey, this is your skill level?
I could not figure out for sure what that choice is even based on.
I've had him pick 2 different badges for the same level, and I don't know if he just got caught between 2 or like I did it and then I did the Princess Choice again and he picked a different badge, and I couldn't tell if it's like, all right, well, like, are there multiple secrets on here that I should bring the hat for, or the wall jump, or I'm kind of with you, Alex. It adds a layer of Mario games at their best are really fun platformers that have an edge of difficulty on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of adds a thing that's like, do I have to make a choice here? What's this level built around? Is there,
I mean, they want you to replay these levels. I mean, that's very clear. It's the kind of game where they are very much encouraging you to go back and play with like different abilities, see if you can find more hidden stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And again, I think this is an interesting system, a thing that they are playing with, and a lot of these abilities are kind of neat. It just feels like one of those things, like similar to Odyssey, where like they had a lot of ideas and they didn't necessarily pare them down. They just tried to find a way to make them all exist in this thing. And it's maybe like one thing too much for me. Like, I think there's some neat abilities there. I think if they had pared them down and focused some more levels around them, that I would be way more into it.
What are some of the later badges? I'm only up to about where we ended the stream so far, so I haven't seen a ton of badges. Are there like interesting later ones that you've seen?
I've got like 9 or 10 of them. I think it's, there's ones where it's like, hey, we added a bunch of exclamation point blocks to the level that give you some extra places, platforms to land on, also extra coins and things like that. There's one, I guess, that lets you drop platforms. If you're on a particular kind of platform, you can drop below it.
Right.
Which is one of those things where it's like, oh, you're turning that into an ability, not just a thing you can do in the game. That's weird.
That's kind of how I felt about the first one. You get the using your hat as kind of a parachute to glide down. Like when they gave me that, I was like, oh, that's cool. You can do that. And then when I realized you're not guaranteed to always have that, I was like, oh.
Yeah. Like the extra wall jump one is one that I feel like is a really good kind of game changer. Like, hey, this really gives you some extra oomph in your jumping. But again, it's a thing that's totally optional. Like you can add it. There is a wall jump you can do regularly. It's just that this adds another jump on top of it.
And there are different like categories of badges. There are like I think where they boost badges where they're like, hey, you get extra coins for beating an enemy.
Yes. Or there's one that just starts you with an extra mushroom at the beginning of every level.
Yes, right. And then I think you can get like better badges, or there are like expert badges or something. I don't have any of them yet, but most of the badges I have now feel like things that have been abilities in other games. Like the wall jump or the swim, the dolphin kick thing. We got the glide. It's. I'm kind of.
I think the abilities are cool. Is the thing. Like it's not that I hate the system or hate that what they came up with. It's more that just like. It just feels like they threw a bunch of ideas into this thing that you can then select between. It just doesn't feel like quite as like, let's just say edited maybe as I would have thought, but like it's a novel approach. It's an interesting idea. I just don't know if I love this execution of it 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems to be the ethos of Mario these days, right? Is let's just cram as many of the ideas as we could come up with in here in some fashion.
Yeah.
It's probably worth noting, just in case people are wondering, you get one badge for the local co-op if you're doing it.
Right, it's the same ability that every player has.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't get to individually pick which badge.
Yeah.
The group, at least from what I can tell.
I appreciate what they did with the co-op by getting rid of the collision stuff and the thing where you basically end up accidentally fucking with the person you're playing with on a regular basis, even when you don't want to. You still do a little of that sometimes if you run too far ahead or jump too far high and then they get turned into a ghost for no reason. I wish there was a little bit more stretch on that, but, it is what it is. I just don't think the co-op is that exciting, and I think... So my partner was really looking forward to this game, and she is not digging it much at all. And I'm kind of trying to place exactly what it is about it that she's not liking, but... I think part of it is just the fact that like it does not feel like there's a lot of dynamism to the co-op. It's more they managed to get you out of the other player's way, but they didn't really add anything in that makes the co-op a more unique or specifically fun experience. It's just a way to play the game with another person.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about that until you were sitting here saying it, that if you can't interact with the other players in any real way,
you can revive. That's it.
Yeah. That's really it.
You can revive. You can. You have a shared item inventory. Basically, it's got that thing where you queue up an item. Yeah,
like you can store up to 2, I think.
But yeah, it's really parallel playing. You're not really kind of intersecting much at all. Again, aside from the reviving, which you kind of need to be able to do because, like you said, if one player is ahead and even if it's a forced scrolling level or something like that, other players get left behind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is, like you're gonna have to, like, if the other player kicks a shell, you're gonna have to get out of the way of it, or if somebody else hits a block and takes a power up, you're not gonna get it. So there is
some P-block or something like that.
Yeah.
There's some kind of like passive interaction, but if you can't actually touch each other, then I guess how cooperative is it actually?
Also, you have a shared life pool, which for the most part, especially in single player, lives are kind of meaningless.
They're totally meaningless.
But we were playing with 3 people, and we were doing something where the level had a instant fail if you did something, and we were just burning through 3 lives at a shot. Just like 3. So it went from like, we have 15 lives, and like all of a sudden we have 12, then we have like 9. We're just crunching through lives in about 3 minutes.
So not optimal then.
That was not great because it was like, one player dies, the other 2 players hit that fail state as well. I can't remember exactly what the stage was. They have badge challenges, which are sometimes, I think, Alex, more of what you're talking about, like this level made for a specific badge.
Yes. I'm not saying there aren't any. I'm just saying that like a lot of the levels feel like they can't really contend with, guessing what ability you're going to have. It's like at most they have some hidden stuff that you can go back and do later with that ability equipped.
Right. But overall, like I'm not, it's not my favorite Mario game out of the gate.
Definitely not out of the gate. Like I really was looking forward to this one a lot as soon as they announced it. Like I love this style of Mario game, and I'm always I don't love the new Super Mario Brothers games, but I was pretty looking at what they were doing here. I was pretty excited about it. I also just don't think the suits are really doing a lot for me either. Like the elephant's useful, but I don't think it's nearly as like enjoyable to me as some of the other animal suits they've done over the years. And the bubble suit is just like you shoot bubbles. I don't know why that's special or interesting other than it's sort of like a fire flower and then it's a way to kill an enemy, but like, why are you doing this? What is the meaning of this? Come now, as a Mega Man 2 fan, you must recognize the utility of shooting bubbles.
I was just going to say, not since Mega Man 2 has a bubble suit been so maligned.
But that game is 25 to more years old, and it's not like they're making a reference to that. It's just suddenly Mario has bubbles.
I have bad news for you.
Yeah, all right, fair.
I have bad news for you. The game is going on 40 years old.
Well, there you go. See, I'm just gonna die now.
I like the structure of the game. I like that. I do like. Probably not unique to. I'm sure other Mario games have done this that I'm not thinking of, but like. And again, I'm not super deep in, so maybe this changes somewhat. But like, you just get a grip of levels, and you can kind of run around sort of wherever and do the ones you want to do until you get enough Wonder Seeds to just move on.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like, and they rate the difficulty, which I think is also not new here, but like, you can basically say like, I want to play the easy ones here and just rack up the Wonder Seeds and move on. Or like, I want to go do the hard ones. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, at least in that early area, you can get enough Wonder Seeds way before you do all the levels there.
It's like I think that's very 3D World and 3D Land.
Yes,
kind of,
yes. And the flower coins. They added a second coin type.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
With fractional coins.
Oh my gosh. Nightmare.
Seeing like 72.6 coins is just a real mindfuck. I mean, like, I feel like the joke about this game when they first started showing it was like, oh, it's like Mario Brothers on LSD or something. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, seeing the fractional coins on the UI is definitely one of those, but also I wonder if they showed too much going in, like the talking flowers, the elephant suit, the kind of everything getting all trippy every time you eat a thing in a level, you know what I mean? Like
they did show a lot of that. Yeah.
Like I feel like and obviously they have to market the game, but there would have been a little bit more delightful surprise to it if they hadn't shown so much of the weird shit.
I bet there's more weird shit to be had. I'm still I'm in the first 2 worlds, I think. Not too much further than where we got in that stream.
I'm past that ice level.
Okay. So I'm not even sure how big the game is. We saw the world map, and I think it was 5 we counted. 5
7 biomes.
Wasn't it 7?
7 biomes?
7.
I can't
if you're
remember
counting
exactly.
the center one also, which is sort of like the hub area that takes you to each one, there are levels in that area, so
we'll see. I'll keep the thing I do like about it right now in my game queue is it feels like a game you can jump in and out of. Like
Totally.
come back to when you have some time.
Play some levels, have a nice time, then come back to it in a week or something.
Right. Because I have a couple of big full-on narrative games that I'm trying to get through, and I'm hitting points in some of them where I'm like, I just want to like muck around in a Mario level for a bit. And it's like the perfect thing for like an hour or so to jump around in.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm too down on this because I am having fun with it. I wish the co-op experience with my partner was better because she was really looking forward to it. But like, even if she bounces off of it, I'm perfectly happy to finish it on my own. I'm having a good enough time. I was just hoping for something I think that was just kind of gonna fill me with a bit more wonder kind of right out of the gate. And right now it just kind of feels like, all right, there are some novel twists here on Mario things that I like, but nothing is really bowling me over,
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think I'm not as deep in as you guys are, but like, it plays just fine, plays quite, familiarly.
Yeah, it's tight.
But yes, it's maybe not kind of as much of a mindfuck as I expected. I was just say real quick that I appreciate the flower coins are used to actually buy things in a shop.
Yes.
Which was like another nice twist of like, oh, there's like a reason to pick these up besides the non-reason of getting more extra lives. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not the regular coins are still there and still get you extra lives, but
you can buy all those standees, all the different
standees are what they are, but like
Crouching Mario, Jumping Mario.
Like the shops also sell badges in some cases, or like sell extra wonder seeds, which I assume you're going to need to get 100%.
Yes.
So it's nice to have the basic coin pickups in the levels actually go toward getting you something tangible for once.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. It is out now, of course, on the Switch.
And soon to be out on the Switch 2 coming next year. It will be available on that platform sometime in the launch window.
That's
my bold claim.
Also been out on the internet for like 3 weeks now.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. I didn't know.
This leaked way before it came out.
Wait, so was it like up on the store or something? Or
no. I mean, like
somebody had a copy.
Leaked out. Somebody got a hold of a cart and dumped it or something.
Hackers!
But, people were very openly out there talking about having finished it like a week before it came out.
Oh, okay.
Also, people have already hacked it to figure out how to make levels.
Like in a Mario Maker style, or
apparently the levels are basically just like JSON files, so people are just basically out there making custom levels already.
What the hell's going on out there? Nintendo, what's going on out there? Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Let's take a quick break from that. We're going to come back. We have much more to talk about here on the Nextlander podcast. Stick around. We're back, and we promised much more to talk about, so here it is. Spider-Man 2. We talked a lot about Spider-Man 2 last week on last week's show. It was the game we talked about on last week's show. Since that time, I have finished the Spider-Man 2. I have gotten my Sony. I feel like I need to qualify it. I've got my Sony First Party Platinum.
Should be a whole separate category in the interface.
It's Spider-Man 2. I could put it up there with now Horizon, Spider-Man 1. I checked. I did not have the Platinum in Miles Morales.
Ragnarok?
God of War. Yeah. So it is a very, if you're hunting them trophies, it is a very achievable trophy.
Platinum, yeah.
So look out for that. But more to the point, Spider-Man 2, it is a game I thought I had finished by the time I was pretty much at the end of Act 2. So
that's exactly where I'm at. Like I had hoped to finish it for this podcast. I thought I was going to finish it last night, and then I very much saw what you were talking about last week, where it was like, man, it feels like this game was about to roll credits almost, and now I'm just back in it.
Yeah.
Like, in a way that's just like, I literally sat down. I wish I could say where I was last night when I sat down planning to finish it. Like, I went and cleared all the side stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Partially because, like, the game, I actually did one story mission more and then rolled back a save because I can't say what happens, but, like, stuff gets locked out.
Yeah.
Things become unavailable. Like, there's an urgency to the story.
There's a world shift.
A bunch of stuff happens, and I was like, oh my god, wait, I wasn't ready to get into what seems like the end game. I've still got like 3 of the 4 hunter bases left to do and stuff like that. So I actually rolled the save back to before the mission and everything changed, and went and did like everything to the side and then was like, all right, let's see this through now. And then it's like 3 hours of story missions. And I was like, and some real shit goes down where it was just like, and again, it's exactly what you were saying. I'm sure anybody who's finished it knows exactly what I'm talking about, where it's like, wow, major plot threads are dealt with very definitively. Yeah. This has to be about to wrap up. Next thing you know, cut back to like the standard post-mission shot of Peter jumping down onto a perch and somebody coming on the radio, and then him just being like, well, I should go see what else is out there to do.
Yes.
And it's like,
bleep,
what
bleep,
fucking, what is, dude, like, the world has just ended. Like, what? And like another side quest line opens back up at that point, and a whole new side, like generic side activity opens up, and there's more icons on the map again.
You get new enemies, you get new enemy types, you get a whole new thing.
Like, dude, the story feels like it just reached its climax.
Yeah,
and it's not bad, but the pacing is a little weird there in the last, like, looking at the mission counter says I have 6 more side missions to go, main missions, although what constitutes a mission in some cases is very short. So I don't know exactly how much I have left, but
there's some long stuff towards the end where you have some longer multi-part longer missions.
Yeah. It's not nearly as serious as this, but it almost reminds me of something like Red Dead Redemption 2 or something.
Oh yeah.
Like again, like nowhere near as prominent as that, but it is a case of like, oh man, this felt like it was ending, and then there's like way more game here than it seemed. This is just like messing with my expectations a lot.
So I wound up doing exactly the same thing you did. Wrapped up pretty much all of the side stuff I could. Was like, all right, let's finish this up. Got into basically what is the last act of the game. They unlock. Well, I knew it wasn't quite over, but I thought maybe they'd do it post game because I had a couple of locked things on my map, and I was like, oh, maybe those will just open up post game. For those who are trying to get their trophies, there is one thing. It was driving me bananas. Finally, I looked it up because I wouldn't end the game. There is one that you can only get post game in the basically epilogue, and I was like, I can't end the game. Where is this last thing I need to do? And it wound up triggering in the post game. But yeah, it goes. I mean, I don't think it necessarily overstays its welcome, but it goes longer than I kind of thought.
It's not that it's too long. It's more just it's the profundity of the events that are taking place is the pacing really makes it feel like, oh man, this, like, it can't get crazier than this. Like, this has to be the end sequence, right? And no.
Yeah, I mean, I have not really any issues narratively, but like some of the roller coaster ride with Peter especially feels a little up and down and up and down.
That's the stuff I'm in right now, where there's a lot of Peter kind of oscillating between normalcy and angry Peter, and it's like so here's the thing. I think the Venom suit fucking kicks ass. I think the fights when you are using that suit, like when he starts launching those Venom suit abilities,
your
like that
symbiote
suit stuff is really cool,
dude. Like the what is it, the symbiote surge or whatever, the click both sticks as the, like,
when you're in like overdrive mode.
It's like straight up brutal, man. He's just like you say you don't kill people, but there's no way these people are surviving these cranial injuries.
Well, there's a couple of spots where he is sort of like, I didn't do that. I didn't tell the suit to do that. It decided to do that on its own. But you know, the main thing with that stuff, on top of being cool powers, is that the way the animations are built around that stuff, and the way that like the those fights feel incredibly dynamic when you're doing that stuff, and like the flow of it is really interesting. My only beef is that when Peter starts doing the angry voice, it is impossible to take him seriously. Like, it's just too dorky.
Silly. It's a little silly. They address that, though. At some point, they just start putting modifiers on the voice to make him actually sound scary.
Yeah, even then, it's just not that scary.
I mean, he's kind of dorky.
I don't know if you've gotten to the point. Like, at some point, it's just the symbiote talking. Like, it's not even Peter anymore.
I've definitely heard that's the symbiote voice here and there, so...
Yeah, he starts getting into his like Dr. Claw style, like we are Peter, stuff like that. But it just makes me want to play Miles all the time, because Miles is such a cool cucumber throughout a lot of this. He's like, I just like his character, and I like his portrayal in this game.
And I wish he was the center of the story and not Peter, honestly. Like, it's not that I think this is a bad story. It's not. And I think especially as stuff with Kraven starts coming more into light and you understand what that dude's deal is, I think they actually have a pretty interesting notion of what they are doing with that villain and why all of this stuff ties together. I just don't think the way they sideline Miles' story for a good chunk of it is as compelling to me. Like, his thing of I'm really still mad at Mr. Negative is just not, it's not enough to keep me interested in his like, I'm interested in the smaller things that he's doing with school and his mom and all that other stuff, but his role in the main narrative, like, for a long chunk of it, he is just completely, he's literally the guy who doesn't get his phone calls answered. You know, like Peter is hanging out with Harry all the time. That is the central focus of the story. And I think some of that stuff is good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think the Harry stuff is actually pretty well written and the performances are good. It really feels like Miles is there as an appendage for a long chunk of it.
Yeah, that's very much true in the middle of the game. They do bring Miles back into the spotlight.
I had to assume that's where they were going with it.
A good bit later on.
Yeah, you focus on Peter, I mean, because it becomes a big part of the story, and these are not spoilers, like the symbiote suit is in a lot of the promotional materials, but like, you know, that relationship and that setup takes a lot of oxygen, right? It takes up a lot of the story to set up the Harry stuff and Peter stuff, and during all of that, Miles is just kind of like mopping up side quests the entire time.
Or like, okay, Peter, I guess I'll call back later. Yeah.
But like Brad said, they do spin it back around because, as you might imagine, Peter winds up getting into, Peter's in trouble here. So like Miles winds up being a very formidable force. Also, Miles' power set's kind of awesome. I mean,
yes, it is.
Yeah, like they very much. And I haven't seen the very end, like I said, but I'm past this kind of once things reach their apex. They very much start to feel like co-equal Spider-Men.
Yeah.
I guess I would say like Miles feels like he ascends toward the end of this game to the same level as Peter, where they're both just kicking equal amounts of ass, I guess I would say.
I would say, aside from some of the abilities which we talked about with Peter and then the symbiote suit, I preferred Miles's tool set a little bit more. 100% preferred Miles on any stealth mission because he just has that camo. He's got that camouflage, and it's like, Peter just does not have that ability or a comparable ability to just disappear out of a stealth kill.
He has other cool abilities. It's just not that.
And, you know, but later on, I was like, it is faster for me to just bulldoze my way through this thing than to try to stealth through it. Like, you get so overpowered. I think, Brad, you mentioned the symbiote surge, where you're just like in overdrive mode and you can clear out an area, and that charges. The upgrades you get are pretty meaningful, and some of them help recharge things faster. So you can get that thing charged up fairly quickly to the point like you're just popping it off and it's almost recharged in a couple of enemies to get it going again. I think it wraps up pretty well. I think they set up a pretty good situation for if they're going to make a Spider-Man 3, or I don't know if they're going to try and tie in Wolverine to this universe at all. I have no idea what their plans are for that, now that I guess everything is licensed under one roof, or this is a separate license. I have no idea.
There's still some funniness around some of that stuff, but I mean, look, Fox is now part of the Disney brand, so like, yes, anything X-Men is still technically under their purview now. It's still the Spider-Man stuff that's weird.
Yeah, so it's like Spider-Man, Sony's license.
There's still a deal with Sony.
Sony has film rights for Spider-Man. I'm not sure how that extends to games, though. I don't know if they're actually just licensing from Marvel for the game.
And then so sorry, this is a tangent, but just, do you guys know if for MCU stuff they relicense back from Sony
for Spider-Man? That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, like, in a weird way, Spider-Man is sort of on loan from the Sony collection.
Okay.
And I think part of that ongoing thing is why they keep making all these Spider-Man villain movies, or at least they've made those two Venom movies, and they are going to make that Craven movie.
And that's those a Sony one.
Those are all Sony productions.
Yeah, right.
It's film and television that Sony has rights for.
Okay, I assume video games is rolled up somewhere in there.
Well, I mean, that's all part of the Disney licensing stuff.
No, I think they must be doing a separate deal for the video game rights.
Oh, okay. Well, there is a Wolverine suit in there, for Miles.
I mean, they know what people are anticipating, so
business can make anything happen if there is enough will there, of course. But
I like this game a lot. I think it is probably the best one of these, though. Miles is shorter bound or more contained boundaries was really nice. Like it's just kind of a more meal sized digestible. This goes on, but I tell you, I beat it all the way through kind of non-stop, so there is propellant in there and there is a momentum in this one, which is pretty good, because things like Assassin's Creed Mirage I'm struggling to, we'll talk about it in a second, kind of get through. This does keep you going.
No, I want to keep playing. This is the thing, like, and I can't say that too many big games have kept me going past, let's just say the 20-hour mark this year. Like a lot of stuff I've just completely fallen off of, but this one I have a compulsion to keep going back to, because it's not really ever boring. Like there are some side activities that I think are less interesting, but they're just so tangential to like all the stuff that is going on in the story and like kind of just the general fun of swinging around the city and doing random shit. Like it's too good of a time for me to want to put it down.
Like even having basically every single side thing in this culminates in some kind of narrative thing.
Yeah.
However small. Like trying to think of like, Alec, do you have the chase the drones around side mission type yet?
Yes.
You do? Okay. Like even that one, like which
Did you finish that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the ending of that really surprised me because it came out of nowhere, like that's a side mission type they roll out relatively late. And I was just like, well, they're just trying to put more side filler in here. Even that, you go to a unique environment at the end of that thing. Like a lot of these repeatable side activities, you end up in a place that it's like, oh, they put like real art design and artwork into like this unique environment you end up in at the end of this, what seemed like a throwaway non-story.
I meant to look that up because it felt like a reference I didn't quite.
Yeah, like a villain who there's no sign of this villain until you finish this thing, and then all of a sudden there is. It's like,
right.
I mean, I don't know my Spider-Man villains very well, so
did you finish the Spider Bots?
Where did this person come from? No, I have not. I think I've probably got another 8 of those or something.
Okay. That's another one that also ends in like a little bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, but they all feel worth doing is I guess the point I'm making, because you get XP and materials, of course, but like every time you finish one of those lines, there's like some actual content or story thing, like reward there.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Crazy to me seeing people say this game's too short. I mean, like
too short.
Who is saying that?
That was, well, a lot of that was based on the numbers that they quoted. Like so much of the shit people get mad at in video games these days is based on numbers being quoted by developers and not actual real world experience with a game. But when they came out and said like, oh, it's like 18 hours long to finish the story or something, there was discontent, let's say. But like,
I was ready to feel satisfied when I thought I was done.
Yeah, like I'm at 30 hours with like still a handful of whatever I've got left here. I mean, granted, like I said, I've done all the side stuff up to this point, but like this does not feel like a game that does not prove its value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I think it wraps up pretty well.
Yeah.
Brad,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you could probably confirm this where you are. Alex probably too. Also, between Miles and Spider-Man, it's no contest. Like Mary Jane is the baddest character, and the Mary Jane takes down people like just no problem.
I mean, she did train with Sable apparently.
There's a specific. You play her a couple times, and you get a certain ability.
Just like
at a certain point, and my girlfriend was sitting there, and she was just like, "Damn, MJ!" Like when I went, she and is did just the move.
Like she gets through villains so much faster than I get through them with Miles.
Seriously, it's just like maybe just let me play as her the whole game.
Seriously, if I liked those stealth missions more, I would agree with you. But I think those missions are not that fun.
It's like the first game. They're very similar.
Like I like the character, and I like that they're doing something with her, but I just don't think those mission designs have ever done anything for me.
But it is just funny how badass she is. Like, just like. She's wrecking like 40 guys here.
Yeah, I've seen people out there saying like, "Oh, this is the best superhero game ever made." Like, it's hard to argue with that. Like, especially like just the way it plays. Absolutely, like cannot disagree.
Arkham pretty good.
Batman at its height.
Actually, Arkham Asylum is a pretty all-time classic.
Batman, I think at its peak, I might slightly still beat this for me, but I mean, these are really good.
Sometimes I wonder, Arkham Asylum has been so long now, would I actually feel the same way if I went back to it? Because I've never replayed it.
I think the thing you discover is that, yes, aspects of it have definitely aged, but the condensed feel of it is actually a big part of why that game is still so memorable and cool.
Yeah.
The problem was with those background games for me was the further they spread it out, the less interesting it got.
I pretty much agree with that. I mean, my memory of Arkham Asylum is a game that felt like it had zero fat on it. Like it's just it's like a fine watch the way it's put together. You know, just all the parts fit like so intricately. I guess that's like my one knock against this game. They just crammed so much in here that it feels a little overstuffed at times. You know, between switching back and forth between Peter and Miles and feeling like the other one is out of the story for a while to like juggling multiple villains and the implications that has for the pacing and stuff like that. Like there's just, I think they do a pretty good job with considering all the moving parts they have to deal with, but it's not perfect.
I think I'd just like to add to the Arkham stuff. I feel like video games have evolved off of that Arkham combat to the point where Spider-Man still feels like its roots are in there.
This feels like Spider-Man games feel like the one series still truly carrying the torch of the Arkham games, because the melee combat and the stealth are both kind of straight out of there. But
you are just bouncing around from enemies with counters, dodges, and chains. You're chaining these combos together. You know that I feel like Arkham kind of broke the ground on, and this has evolved. Yeah, I mean, you don't get big you kind of do. I was gonna say you don't get like big Y and B prompts, but you kind of do. You do get like those prompts. It's
easy to forget like the zipping to point is so integral to a character with web shooters that it just feels like Spider-Man stuff at this point. But it's easy to forget that they're basically just doing the gargoyles from Arkham Asylum as well,
and the perching and the whole thing. And even in this with the wingsuit, Batman's cape from Arkham City.
It's really those zip webs that you can shoot to walk on now that I feel like is really the big game changer in this one. Like that really just does make a lot of those stealth sequences feel like, oh, I'm just toying with these motherfuckers now.
Once I got the dual perch takedown skill, I felt like I was popping off those hunter blinds in like less than a minute in some cases. Like you can just tear through there.
You can get through them quite quickly. Spider-Man 2. I hope they do some DLC for this like they did for the first one. I would do a couple of other short little...
There's a couple of parts of the map where it looks like they might have something rendered out that maybe they're going to do something with. There's a bridge to Jersey that looks conspicuous in its... there seems to be a lot of buildings on the other side. Maybe they could do something with that.
I bought that costume upgrade pack, but I don't think they have an edition with like a season pass or anything, right? There's
no, I don't think they've said.
Yeah, they haven't announced any additional content. The first game got so much stuff. I wonder.
It was three big ones, right?
Three little expansions, and then like Miles Morales is a standalone product, but it's clearly descended from that game in every way. Yeah. So I actually wonder if we're going to get a full on like $40-$50 thing again.
I'd look some stuff
Black
up at
Cat
the end.
In Paris. That's what it's going to be.
I'd look some things up at the end of this game to be like, okay, because again, my Marvel knowledge is not that great, especially with the more nuanced stuff. And they drop some things, especially towards the end of the game, that I was like, where are things going? So I do feel like they're setting stuff up. You know, let's just say you stick around. I think there's at least 2 after credit scenes in this thing that I was like, all right, I'm gonna go hit Google and see what I was supposed to get out of this. And figure some stuff out. But a lot of fun. Spider-Man 2, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Like I said, it moves. It's a little bit longer than I thought. I definitely don't think it's too short, but and personally, but it was always fun to also feel like you've achieved something, and I can put that game to bed for now and don't have. Also, I'll just add, they have challenges where you don't have to get the gold in them to get the trophy for them. And I appreciate that, where it's like some of them are pretty tough. And I was like, okay, you just have to medal in each one of them or do each one of them. You don't have to get the gold and you still get the trophy. I like when games do that. All right, quickly here, I went back after Spider-Man 2 to Assassin's Creed Mirage. And boy, I'll tell you, I had a tough time kind of finding myself back in that game.
That game does not have the juice.
I don't know if it does for me. Like I went back in after Spider-Man 2 and was like, this just feels devoid of personality. Like I don't know, something about it.
It's very dry. Like dry. I'm sure there is probably a point where that tips over into something a little weirder, just again based on the game that it is spun off from. But a lot of that game it's dry as the desert, man. Like there is just not much weird or interesting stuff happening. Like Bossum is not an uninteresting character, but they don't have a story here that is really grabbing me at all.
I think I'm just putting my foot down and I'm just going to just mainline the story at this point and stop doing these side things. Even though the gear doesn't feel that interesting to me. The upgrades at this point, like nothing I'm looking too forward to on that tree. Some things like, okay. But I think I'm just going to try and push forward and see what I can get in terms of story out of this, because I've been trying to do a lot of the side stuff and it's really repetitive. It's, those pickpocket events, the shards. I will continue to do the shards because you get the gear from it. But I just think the loot in this game is lame. Those loot chests, it's just like, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a single thing I got out of one of those that I even care about, and it's like, no.
Right, yeah, like the stats on them, you're like, oh, okay, like I guess if I upgraded this, it might be useful, but that's not really my play style. That's not how I'm going. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll go through and finish it up. I'm decent along in the at least revealed narrative, so maybe it won't be too much longer. I'm curious to see where it goes. That's kind of all I have to say about Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's a thing I have now that I am trying to wrap up, with Baldur's Gate still kind of circling the airport here as I wait to see what their next roadmap is from Larian. I don't think they've revealed what they're doing on their next patch, and if they continue to do Act 3 content patches, I might just sit and wait for a bit. But if they're like, we're not going to do, we're good, then I'll just finish up.
And there's also Alan Wake 2 this week.
And then there's Alan Wake 2 coming out, so that'll be out on Friday.
Games are
100-hour game.
Quite done.
No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
I bet that one is reasonable.
And the other thing I did wind up playing over the weekend with the family, now that it is nice because the kids are all old enough, can read, can get references. We played a Jackbox Party Pack 10, which came out. We had tried playing some Jackbox before with the family. I think even though the reading was there, the kind of like making jokes and references wasn't quite there yet.
But now your son's a comedian, so
now we're full in it. So like now we can do it. And Jackbox Party Pack 10, the 10th Jackbox Party Pack, as a new TKO. So we did some TKO. It's got TKO 2. It's got a game where you are two people are kind of writing a text message at the same time called Fixie Text, which is kind of fun. It's got kind of a music rhythm game in it called Dodo Re Mi, which is also kind of fun. You make some silly music. It's got a trivia game that this one, my kids wound up beating us just by guessing. It's a trivia game, but it's based on time, like 80s trivia, 90s trivia, and stuff like that. And you're trying to place events on a timeline, and the kids just guessed and beat us. So we're idiots. And then there's one called Hypnotorious, which I think needs more than 4 people to be really to click, because we weren't quite getting it. It's a not quite bluffing game, but it basically, if you have 4 people, 3 will get a certain prompt and 1 will get a different prompt, and then you're trying to figure out who's got the bad prompt, right? By categorizing it. But I think you might need more people. For 4 people, it wasn't really quite our thing. I still really enjoy Jackbox. Like, what a great platform.
Glad they're still making these on a yearly basis.
It should be a platform.
It should be a platform.
It's not, but it should be.
Just make a platform.
That will happen eventually. I feel very strongly.
Make Jackbox a launcher.
They have, I want to say there's like third-party things I downloaded once that tell you all the games and all of them and launches the appropriate Jackbox. That's what you need, right? You just need a giant thing that's like, oh, you have them all? Great. Here are the games you have access to.
You want to combine these into let's say, a world of Jackboxination.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes.
What's new with TKO 2?
I wasn't really quite sure what was new. I think the drawing tools are a little new. You can now make hoodies and tank tops instead of just t-shirts for your stuff. There's like a last round, which maybe is different, where there's like a little bit of button mashing going on. But it's very similar. It's still very similar. I think the shirts and the tools maybe were the biggest thing. But it looks like we're gonna wind up playing this for our Patron's Choice. We're gonna have Abby and Rich Gallup join us for Jackbox's own Rich Gallup come and join us to play this, and so we'll find out hopefully tomorrow if that's what the patrons choose, and it seems like that's where they were.
I'm pretty sure it's going to win at this point.
Yeah, and if we have time, we'll go back and I still love Fibbage. Fibbage is one of my favorites. I love the presentation on that like 60s, 70s one. Do you remember that with like the vibes? I don't know if that was 3, but that's Fibbage is still a good one. And the kids, big fans of Fibbage. My daughter, just a monster at Fibbage. Just she wins like every time. She's got good, believable, somewhat dirty things to put up there.
You've everybody's a terrific liar.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, how did you even know that word? She's like, I know that word.
They know all the words, Vinny. By this age, they absolutely know.
I know what that.
Whether they choose to use them or not, that's the difference.
So we'll check that out tomorrow. You can come join us, hopefully live over on the Twitch. You guys get up to anything else? There are some other things floating around out there, but I feel like between Spider-Man and Mario Brothers,
I mean, those are pretty big ones, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I think we've mentioned it before, but it's still kind of crazy that Spider-Man and a new Mario came out on the same day.
Yeah.
And Jackbox, I think, came out that Thursday.
Yeah. I did play a little more Forza, but not really anything new to report on there. I also have been staring at that fucking Paradox Star Trek game and then just keep constantly looking back at the user reviews going, I don't need to own this right now.
Yeah, sounds like that could use a little more time in the oven.
I still want to try that Lamplighters League at some point.
Same for City Skylines 2 came out, but that one also sounds like it's like the developer straight up said it's not in the place where they want it to be.
Oh, really?
So that's probably got a little ways to go as well. There's too many games.
There's that Mines of Moria, I think, is out now.
There's too many games, and I'm going to say right now, a lot of this stuff that feels like it's coming out in this late October holiday window maybe does not feel quite as polished as I was hoping. Like, even Spider-Man has those problems.
I have continued to run into bugs here and there in that game.
Mario is maybe the one exception, but I mean, Nintendo very rarely puts out gigantically buggy products anyway, but like, just about everything else I've played in the last few weeks has had something that was a little off, or even things that we're interested in. I start reading reviews and they're like, oh yeah, no, this is not done.
Yeah,
I ran into a Spider-Man 2 bug that I recorded on my PlayStation. Maybe I'll share it with you guys. It's a little spoilery, so maybe I'll wait, but it is maybe my kids and I were on the floor throwing up laughing. It was very funny. Basically, the suit disappeared. And so it is just Peter's head floating around.
I've seen a version of that before, yes.
Yeah.
Not in my game, but I've seen videos of it.
And the suit turned into a little white box.
Yes, so the white box. I've seen the white box, yes.
So I've got video of it where the white box just swinging around the city and fighting a boss. But then there's a cutscene where, Peter takes his hood off and it's just his head kind of just floating in the air talking. And yeah, I had to close the game and restart it to get my suits back. But man,
I'm wondering if there is some kind of financial pressure right now to get a bunch of these games that maybe were delayed over the course of the pandemic out now. So I don't know, but it just feels like there's been an abundance of stuff that did not feel quite finished in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like you're seeing, I keep up with PC hardware quite a bit. Like you're seeing some stuff there as well in a similar vein. Like I really just feel like the disruptions of the last 3 years have...
They're still taking their toll.
Thrown multiple wrenches into product development in general.
As I would say, again, just from an outsider point of view, but I don't think it is ridiculous to say, as products get more and more complicated.
Yeah, there's also that.
Like even on the tech side, I feel like the amount of things going on are...
Don't Google Alan Wake 2 PC requirements.
Are they super intense?
They are pretty intense, but also...
Googling the PC requirements will crash your computer.
So is the backlash.
Oh, really? Because they're so high?
Yeah.
Are they minimum specs or recommended specs?
I mean, it's multiple. I don't know if you really want to get into it. It's multiple things, like 10 series NVIDIA cards and 5000 series AMD cards straight up can't run the game at all.
Whoa.
Because they lack features that the game needs.
Oh, okay. They're not optional, like non-optional features.
Yeah.
I see.
And then there's also just like what the cards that can run at the types of performance they're turning in. I mean, it's very much we're finally at the point where current gen console game only games are coming out now and the specs are going up pretty severely all of a sudden.
Yeah.
and we just have not had many of those. Like I was trying to think about like how many games that don't run on Xbox One and PS4 have come out on PC. It's very few.
Very few.
So
yeah, yeah, they've been a kind of console exclusive, I would say. So yeah, I don't know.
It's like Ratchets and something else, maybe Forza just came out. Starfield.
Mm-hmm.
Like there have been very few games that only run on the current new consoles that have come to PC.
Okay, look, I'm not here to dig on the Series S, but like Starfield does run on that, even though it's
it's the same CPU.
It's a current console.
Like it's the same. The underlying logic is the same. It's just the graphical bells and whistles that are being
right. Yeah, I don't know. We are also about to hit a period where there are not a lot of big AAA releases, I should say, from big publishers coming out. So I don't know what's going on with this year. Maybe we're in the new normal. Maybe we're just in the kind of we're hearing or feeling the first wave of the kind of post-COVID, post kind of troubled supply and development and personnel stuff. And this is the kind of first wave of big releases past that, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. Again, my thing is I don't think game and tech is getting any easier to work on or develop. It seems like, or at least at that level, at that high level, a lot of systems in place.
Yeah, well, it's always just a bumpy transition every time new consoles come out, and a bunch of new tech has to become like developers have to come to terms with a bunch of new stuff. Like it will get easier. We're just in the middle of the transition right now because that transition didn't happen 3 years ago, like it wouldn't have. Normally.
Right.
Like it was a delay to games being made specifically for these consoles to basically now.
It really just feels like this last, even I was going to say this year, but even just the last 4 or 5 months where we started getting the this will not run on your PS4, this will not run on your Xbox One. All right. We're going to take another break. We got a little bit of news to get to. Kind of big news last week with all of the Microsoft and Activision stuff. This news, not so big, but we'll take a quick break, come back, and get to it. Stick around. All right, we are back. And we just had a little bit of a break there here internally. If you're on the premium feed, and probably no break at all. But for us, there was a little break, and I got some news for you guys. The painting of the Halloween costume for my son has begun. He is a bomb.
For a second, I thought you meant like a portrait was being painted of your son in a Halloween costume.
Yes, he is standing in a next to a bearskin rug, and so the idea, hopefully we'll see how this works out, was, and this one's on me because it was my idea for how to do it. Get 2 giant, basically like almost yoga style ball inflatable balloons, and then paper mache around those. Okay. And then you cut them in half, in each kind of like they're balloons, so they're not quite spherical. So they have like a little oblong shape. So we have to do 2 of them so we can take the round side of both of them, the front of top of them, and then wear it like a sandwich board style so that he can move in the bomb costume.
Got it.
Right? Because otherwise, if it's just a circular bomb, really hard to move. Yeah. Also can't go inside.
Arms are kind of stuck out in a way. You can't really put them down. So yeah.
So I'm curious. They were outside. The blowing them up was tricky. We got it. The paper macheing, I haven't paper macheed since I was about 8, and so that seemed to work out okay. I don't know when was the last time you guys did a paper mache thing. Paper mache might be one of my favorite things. What a great thing. It's just flour and water, and it makes like hard things.
It's also messy.
It's a little messy, but like it'll biodegrade, it'll go away with time. Just stick it out in the rain.
A little messy, will biodegrade.
That's right.
Also just fun to say.
Paper mache.
Mache.
Oh, a papier mache.
So anyway, maybe I'll have a photo update or something like that when it happens, when it comes time. You know, it's going to kill it though. And this is where I'm going to have to just leave the house. Painting the eyes on it. I feel like you mess up those eyes, you could really get a really freaky, creepy looking bomb, you know?
That's Halloween, you know?
It's Halloween. Just put some sunglasses on that thing.
Black eyes. Lifeless eyes.
Like a doll's
like
eyes.
A bob-omb's eyes.
I think like Bob-omb, except from hell, is also a valid costume.
Yes.
I mean,
that's where they all go when they die. We all know that.
Gotta get him like a little crown with a fuse or something for his hat.
So he knows he's a king.
So he knows he's the king.
Can I jump in real fast here?
Of course.
Just since we're
The news is light enough that I think you can jump in as many times as you want.
we talked about this a little bit on the Watchcast that will not post until next Monday. So this is top. Alex, do you have any more horror recommendations? This is the last weekend to cram some horror movies in before All Hallows Eve.
But recommendations. So give me some guidance. What are you looking for?
Like I already came out of the Watchcast with the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
So I got zombies covered. Maybe like something supernatural,
like a ghosty thing.
Like yeah, sure, ghosts or like hellish or something.
So I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about that Talk to Me movie that came out this year. I don't know if you know anything about that one.
No,
but,
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, I don't want to give too much away because I've heard a little bit about what actually happens in that movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's pretty good from people I trust.
Okay, I see it being compared to stuff like Insidious, so that sounds in the vein.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. Or at least that's what I've heard. Let me think on that one for a minute. Are there any
you haven't
other
seen
things
Hereditary yet, right?
I've not seen his. Is that like horror?
It's pretty rough.
It's pretty much horror.
I thought I had gotten the sense that it was like somewhat horror, but not like as.
I'd say Midsommar blurs the line more than Hereditary does.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Maybe Midsommar is the one I was thinking that's like maybe not super traditional horror.
I mean, Midsommar is like folk horror, and if you're looking for something in that vein, there's plenty out there. I will always recommend if you want something that's a little goofy but also pretty good horror. The original good folk horror, the original Wicker Man from the 70s is actually a legitimately good movie.
Okay,
not the bees.
I mean, you can watch the Nick Cage one, but that one is, whether intentional or not, more comedy than anything else.
All right.
That enough to work with for now?
That's probably enough for the weekend.
Okay.
If you watch Hereditary, let me know what you think. I found that movie to be a rough one. Like,
right.
It's a good psychological.
I mean, it's not like
movie.
It has some gross bits in it, but it's not like it's torture porn or anything. It's just it has some really intense emotional stuff in it, and also is pretty dreadful in a very intentional way.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Dreamcatcher.
No. That isn't even like the 15th fucking Stephen King adaptation I would recommend.
Honestly, I could just mine horror classics of the 80s for an entire month of October.
Totally.
That I haven't seen.
Dreamcatcher.
You should get a King thing in there. You've been talking about King lately.
King
I feel
thing.
like you should knock one of those out if you have one of those adaptations.
Are there a lot of good King movies though?
I mean, there aren't a lot of good ones. I think there's a lot of pretty good ones, or at least watchable ones. They did just release a 4K of Needful Things pretty recently. I don't know if you've seen that one or like that one, but I have a weird affection for that movie, lumpy and sometimes bad as it can be.
Pet Sematary, pretty good.
Did they do a remake of Pet Sematary?
There is a remake of Pet Sematary. I never saw it.
I never saw it. There was a Pet Sematary 2 also.
There was, with Edward Furlong and Clancy Brown.
Okay.
I think I like the recent It remake also was kind of huge, right?
Yes, both parts of that I think are fairly well regarded.
Maximum Overdrive.
Obviously.
Night
Shift.
Cujo, Christine, right?
Monkey Shines.
Yeah, we should do a King thing.
That's another podcast. We can't call a podcast King Things. There's already a Just King Things podcast.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
That definitely exists.
Okay. We should do a King month on the King of Podcasts, the Watchcast.
Our empire.
No, we don't use that, but it's the...
I mean, if we're kings, then we have an empire. That's just how that works.
It'd be cool to like watch the thing and also read the thing, but then that's a good plan if we want to do like one episode a quarter.
True.
All right. Let's get into
news.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot here, like you said, Alex. There was that Microsoft partner stream that happened
today.
Like as we were starting.
Yeah, kind of right before we hit record on this. A couple of things out of there. One of the things that I saw that looked pretty good, that I feel like I've asked you once a month, Brad, is how is that finals game coming along? And they showed some of that, and that looked pretty good.
Yeah, the finals looks cool.
Going into open beta, there's a time of this recording tomorrow. So we'll see if we can check out some of that or play it at some point. Not tomorrow, but in the near future. I don't know how long the open beta will go. You guys have some stuff you want to talk about that jumped out at you? I feel like we talked a little off camera about some things.
The big one is they showed this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, at least to me. Like actually showed it in. Of course, they describe it as first in-engine look. It's largely just a lot of shots of Snake creeping or Big Boss creeping around in the jungle and alligators and snakes and frogs.
You know.
Oh my.
Metal Gear.
It looks good. It's on Unreal though. I think they like go out of their way to say like running on Unreal Engine 5.
Right.
It looks good. It looks like, you know, of a like modest modern budget, I would say.
Yeah, it does not look like they have done a complete overhaul on that thing. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's definitely all new graphics, but it's like pretty, like it looks good. I guess what I'm trying to say. It's like not triple A, quadruple A necessarily, but it looks certainly quite serviceable. I think like the bigger thing for me is seeing what may have changed gameplay wise, because I remember that game being very successful narratively and not so much mechanically. Granted, I haven't played it since it came out.
It was definitely the older type of more traditional Metal Gear.
Yes, for sure.
In a more quote unquote open environment.
Even in that context, though, I remember feeling like it didn't quite all the way to come together gameplay wise. I mean, the other thing though is like that game was like so ahead of its time on all the survival elements, like way like a decade ahead of its time. Almost, not that much, but like
it was pretty ahead.
Several years, you know, like so like. Seeing what may have changed on the survival front in this game now that all that stuff has gotten super popular.
I wonder if they have toned down some of the things like eating or, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or toned them up.
I don't know. Now you can build. That game still had like, this will be interesting to see too, because it had scene changes, right? You went to the top of the map, went off the map, and loaded into the bottom of a map, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a continuous zone.
That's right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a PS2 game, so it was very compartmentalized.
Right. So, like, I wonder if some of that, maybe they expanded the size of those areas or something, or, you know, it could be the core of the design because you have certain guards who can't see you, obviously, when they're off the map. So maybe that would change too much. But
yeah, I'm curious to see how this turns out. Of course, it's also at the same time, it's very weird to think that Kojima has absolutely nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
I mean, to the point where, I mean, I guess in that like remake collection or whatever, they just don't mention his name.
Yeah, apparently he is not in the credits for the Master Collection at all.
So that whatever bridge broke between them has not been mended in any way, shape, or form at this point.
Yeah. Anyway.
We'll see when the credits roll on this one where that name is, or I guess when the credits start, is it going to have a
Konami video game?
Yeah,
I think what I understood about the Master Collection is he's not in the new credits for the Master Collection. I'm sure when you boot up one of those games and see the credits, they're as they always were.
What if they aren't?
But who knows? Who knows what this is going to look like? It would be fucking insane if they ship this. Metal Gear Solid Delta, I guess we should say, is the actual title of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it would be so fucking crazy if they ship this without his name in it anywhere.
I mean. To be fair, I think it would be bullshit if they did it. But to make the point explicit, his name is prominent in these games. Like
always has been.
His logo, and then it is cinematically prominent in these games.
It's not quite to the level of Sid Meier's Civilization necessarily, but I mean, he did name the studio after himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would just be amazingly petty if they went out of their way to not credit him at all.
If there's one thing I know, it's that Konami's pettiness knows no bounds.
Yeah.
It'd be cooler if it was just like blurred out. Like they just kept the credit rolls on top of things. Because those games also have big intro scenes. I think it's this one that has that whole like Bond intro, right?
Gosh, it's been so
that's the one
long.
that has the Snake Eater intro, yeah.
Yeah, with like the woman singing.
Oh yeah, it's a legendary theme song. I mean,
yeah. And it's got that whole Snake Eater while the whole thing is going on.
One day you'd feed on a tree frog. Okay.
So I mean,
sometimes you just have to.
I do.
The credits will be there.
I have that theme song on vinyl.
That's a pretty good one to have on vinyl.
They gave out a vinyl of that song at E3.
That's pretty good. They showed a couple of other things. Alex Navarro, they showed something here that I feel like this merges into two of your...
It's definitely hitting a couple of points in my brain that are loosely adjacent. Yeah, I mean, look, the big thing in every big Like a Dragon game, every mainline one, is that there's usually obviously there's a bunch of mini games, but there's also usually one or two like big sub-story ongoing games that you just kind of do in that world. There was like the Cabaret Club stuff. Right. There was the, things like that. They put a damn Animal Crossing in Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
They just let you do an Animal Crossing in Like a Dragon, the new one.
Infinite Wealth. Yeah, this seems pretty extensive.
Yeah. Like, the gist is, I mean, that game takes place apparently in Hawaii. We've seen that from the trailers with a nude Ichiban waking up on the beach, and they are going from there. It seems like at some point in that game, you will get your own island that you can just go to. And then over time, you will do Animal Crossing things. You will cut down trees. You will gather resources. You will craft things. You will design the island in much the way that you did in the last Animal Crossing. You will invite the people you know from those games to come hang out on your island. It's something, man.
Yeah.
In some way, like the building actually seems more extensive than Animal Crossing. Like you're just... It's less preset pieces like it was in Animal Crossing, and more just like paint a walkway wherever you want type stuff.
If you told me that Ryu Gagatoku played that last Animal Crossing and were equally disappointed with some of the things that Nintendo chose to do with it and decided to set out and make their own version of it, I could very easily believe that.
It looks pretty good.
Also seem like it has a thing that Animal Crossing has been missing, which is combat.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, we've all wanted to finally take it to Tom Nook, but it has not yet come to fruition.
So that game is out, I think, early next year. And
it's like January, I think, like the end of January.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for Dondoko Island as part of its minigame. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Also, just in case you were wondering if the change of leadership over there was going to affect the tone of the games at all, I think you can rest easy after watching this footage.
Oh, it's still very silly.
I am way into this talking parrot named Pingwing, whose dialogue here is Wi-Fi, router, USB, GPS, BBS. What?
So this is the Man Who Erased His Name is also out like next month, right?
That's out in I think that's out in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are both of these mainline Like a Dragon games?
It literally says Gaiden in the Man Who Erased His Name.
Yeah, that's
the side story.
Full-on side thing, like the one earlier this year.
I mean, I bet that thing will actually be reasonably long, but not by Yakuza game standards. It will probably be. If that thing is more than 20 hours, I will be shocked.
Okay.
I hope this new game is approachable for anyone. Like I loved also now it's really hard to talk about Yakuza 6 or 7. Well, that was 7, right? 7 was Like a Dragon, correct? Because that game was Yakuza Like a Dragon, and now the whole franchise is Like a Dragon.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, I loved that game, but I got like 30, 40 hours into it, but I did not finish it, so I hope this is something you can just come to without knowing how that wrapped up.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably want to at least read up on the ending. Because,
you just watch a YouTube synopsis, I guess.
Like a lot of, again, the stuff with Kiryu and what's going on in Man Who Erased His Name is only very lightly touched on in that actual main game. It seems like they're going to use that to fill in all the blanks. But as far as like what's going on with Ichiban, you should at least read up on that.
Yeah, I mean, like I can see that a lot of the main cast from that game is in this one. Namba? Is that the guy with the glasses?
Namba, yeah.
And I can't remember the cop guy's name.
And then there's the guy who ran the Chinese gang, I think, as well.
That is Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Infinite
next year.
Wealth.
Infinite Wealth. And like we said before, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, that is the one that is out next month. And then for you, Brad, they showed off a big chunk of Ark Survival Ascended. The UE5 version of Ark is coming. Huh?
I
didn't even watch that segment.
I played some Ark. Look, the game looked all right. I could get it. It's Ark is a very popular game.
It's huge, yeah.
So I saw the chat blowing up, all the Ark heads out there, just kind of, getting excited. I would check this out. It's a,
But will
it's an
you?
Ark game. But will I? Yeah, maybe at some point.
Sorry, is this Ark 2 or is this the remake of Ark 1?
This is the upgraded version of, I think, Survival Evolved. Okay. This is Survival Ascended. This is the UE5 version of it.
Crazy, if I remember right. It's crazy. They are both kind of remaking the first game and also making a sequel simultaneously.
Yes. I don't know what the dates are for Ark 2 or if there are
I believe 2 is a good ways out.
Okay.
Still.
There's some other stuff there too, but they kind of ended on a big Alan Wake 2 showing, which is out.
At this point, I don't want to see a bunch of footage of that because it's out in a matter of hours.
Yeah. So that's kind of, they had a couple of other things, RoboCop and
which we also just played a demo of that. So
it's the first one of these they have done. Xbox, like they've done, what do they call them, like developer directs before, I think.
Yeah,
is what.
Well,
Microsoft
there's like
was
what did they call those things? There was like the weird, they had like a special name for like their third party and indie games, like promotional stuff.
I think wasn't that the developer direct?
Maybe.
I think like this. So they're calling this the partner preview. I think it's the first one of these they've done. Like,
okay,
I feel like they have finally stripped this down to its essence because there's literally no presenter, no interstitial narration, no nothing but games. Like it's
very direct.
It's in the Nintendo Direct state of play vein of like, we're just going to do a stream and show some games.
Yeah.
Like it is as essential as it can get. Literally just a bunch of games back to back to back. Just fine, honestly. Like, like I feel like that works just fine. You can communicate any like release date, nuts and bolts information type stuff you want on screen.
So what is this? Sorry if I'm misunderstanding some of what this partner direct stuff is, but it's not stuff that's necessarily coming exclusively to Xbox or it's going to be on Game Pass. It's just stuff that'll be on the platform.
I don't think there's anything exclusive in here.
Okay. So it's just games that are coming, like heads up, these games are coming to Xbox soon or in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of, it's stuff they would have negotiated with the partners to put on this stream. This is not for whatever reason. Although it is weird to see, like, the titles for like a dragon pop up at the end and it just lists Xbox and Windows as the platforms.
Yeah, that's the Microsoft, or I'm sorry, the Xbox partner preview. That happened. You can go watch it or the archives of it.
Interesting to see this stuff evolve. Like, I mean, like the Snake Eater stuff was trending on Twitter. Like, obviously it got a fair amount of attention for something that's like pretty low key. Like, I didn't even realize this was happening until this morning.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, here's this, what is it, 30 minutes? Yeah, it's like a 30-minute stream. Kind of in the like permanently post E3 world, it seems like this stuff is just going to get more and more diffused throughout the year.
And that Snake Eater thing is out now or is out tomorrow?
The Snake Eater remake?
The collection, sorry.
Oh no, the Master Collection's out already.
That's out now, right?
Yeah, that's just the original games in a new package.
For some reason in my head, I thought they were all going to be bundled together.
No, they got announced at the same time, like during the same stream, but they're totally separate.
All right.
I don't think there's a date on that remake.
The Delta. Officially called Delta. Did somebody say Delta during the thing?
This seems to be the accepted pronunciation. Yeah, that's what Wikipedia says.
All right. There is one other thing here for the news, pretty small, but they had some shots that they leaked or they got out there of the PS5 Slim and the detachable disk drive.
It's starting to get out into retail, I believe, is what's happening. Like there's shots of the final box out there now.
And people started noticing that there was some verbiage, some text on it that says requires an internet connection, and what it seems like is you have to basically be a handshake with some server or authentic server out there when you first get this detachable drive or put the drive on. That kind of sucks for stuff in the long run is basically the upshot I've seen some people write. in future proofing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we won't know absolutely for sure. I mean, I guess the fine print is pretty definitive, but obviously once people get their hands on it and really test what's going on, but it seems like it's a one-time handshake, right?
Yeah, that's what they're assuming at this point. Again, like you said, we probably won't know until we really, really get into it.
Yeah, it's not like you have to be connected every time you put a disk in the drive, but it's still kind of a bummer. I don't really know why this is necessary.
Yeah.
I can't fathom it myself.
The text, I'm going to look for the exact text.
Yeah, I couldn't find a photo of the actual fine print.
It's on a tweet. I can send it to you. Internet connection required to pair disk drive and PS5 console upon setup.
Huh. Is that on the standalone disk drive, do you know? Or is that on the actual bundle with the disk drive? Because you would hope out of the box this would not be necessary if you bought the full disk bundle.
Yeah, I'm not sure which box they got this off of. Because this is just an inset photo of this little text on the thing. But yeah, I mean, either way,
it's unfortunate.
Maybe it's unfortunate.
It's, is it likely to ever really be an issue? Probably not, but did it really need to be there? No.
It's just another thing in a long line of things that are just not particularly friendly to the idea of preservation. That's really all it is.
I mean, it's one of those things too. Like, again, you're right, Alex. I mean, that's kind of the gist of the articles I've read on like, why is this a big deal? It's like, well, look, further on down the line, if your drive breaks and you need to get a drive 20 years from now, or you're swapping drives or something, and you want to pair it, and that server's down. Mm-hmm. Then you might not be able to do what you need to do.
Well, we have a system for you. It's the launch model of the PlayStation 5.
And I wonder if at some point they can fix this with firmware, or somebody can do something, or some point this to somebody's personal server or something. It sounds like one of those things where it's like, put this USB key in, boot your PS5, like hold down, get it into developer mode, do this thing later on. But we'll see. Just
I have pretty strong faith that eventually somebody would be able to defeat this down the line if it became necessary, but it's a shame that they have to do that.
Yeah, and again, this is super early on. This is all also basically based on some marketing and text we've seen, so we'll see what happens as we move forward here. But they're interesting nonetheless. Always connected. That's the consoles.
Yes, even when
I want to live in.
Even when you're buying discs, you need an internet connection.
Or hope to buy a disc, right?
Well, you basically do anyway. I mean, like
you kind of do.
Yes,
yeah,
we've talked about this before.
I mean, I very much cotton to the idea, because if you go out and look at sales, like follow Cheap Ass Gamer or somebody on Twitter, like you'll realize why people buy discs still, because like Callisto Protocol Day 1 edition was $3.75 the other day.
Oh wow,
on disc. Like you can get some real cheap ass games on disc if you keep your eyes open. So the economical argument makes a lot of sense there, but the like. I don't even know how to categorize this. The part where you are buying discs to have the physical game in your possession, whole and complete, like that's not a thing anymore.
No,
like nothing is shipping finished on discs these days.
I mean, it's been this way for now 2 generations. So,
and just to clarify, as we said before, this image that people saw came from the PS5 Slim Modern Warfare 3 bundle.
Yeah,
that's the one they saw it on. And then I guess initially, according to this story on Games Radar, people were looking at the 155 gigabyte minimum, the text that was on there, and then somebody noticed, wait, what's that internet thing?
Well, hey, you're in luck. I think that the usable space on the SSD probably went up about exactly that amount on this model.
That game is very big.
Yeah.
That's kind of it for the news.
Yeah, man, I'm in the fucking slim console fever has overtaken me. Every time a new revision of a console comes out, I like the fever grips me of like, man, maybe I should get one of those.
If you got one, would you get one would you get the driveless one at this point?
Oh no, absolutely not. Especially now that it's only a $50 difference, not $100.
Okay. Yeah, it is a little smaller.
I have no need for it. It's really not that much smaller. Somebody did a cool thing where they made they 3D modeled it based on the measurements that are out. And they did an AR video next to the existing PS5 and a Series X.
That's pretty cool.
They just did an AR video of walking around the real consoles with the digital, the virtual Slim next to them.
Neat.
So you could see exactly how big it is. It's still bigger than the Series X.
Sure. It's a tall console.
It's smaller, but when you reduce the biggest console ever made.
It's a reduction, not a small. It has not been ensmalled.
Yes.
All right. That is the PlayStation 5's reported needed connection for its auxiliary drive, let's call it, the add-on drive for it. That's kind of the news there. I did have a conversation with my brothers and tacked this onto the news about, all right, what are we doing here? Are we going to stick in the PlayStation ecosystem, or are we moving to Xbox? Does anything happen now with the sale of Activision and Blizzard to Microsoft that changes anybody's mood there? It's gonna be an interesting conversation moving forward.
Okay.
Game Pass is
nothing has been arrived at on that.
No, because it really kind of hinges on Game Pass, which is an extra $15 to up plus dollars a month if you're going in there. My older brother has no need really for the PC Game Pass part of it, but to play online and get the benefits of Game Pass, you have to have both of those. And if you're not doing Ultimate, you have to combine those Game Pass and what is the other one called? I forget. They don't call it Live anymore. But,
what is it? Game Pass Core, I think.
Yeah. So like, it adds up, and that's gets expensive, if you're not chewing through that catalog of games or testing out those games. So
yeah, I mean, I can tell you as someone with a regular friend group from back home that I play games with, though, like Game Pass is huge for them.
Yeah.
They have PCs. Like that's the difference probably there is that they use PCs quite a bit, so they do benefit from PC Game Pass. But like
they get the Ultimate
every time the conversation comes up almost weekly of like, all right, what are we playing? Like if it's on Game Pass, like it is instantly like goes to the top of the list of like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
because I would say that the hit rate for like playing something and liking it enough to play it again is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff we play once and it's like, oh, that was cool. All right, what's next? So like in that context, having Game Pass and having all these games like Payday 3,
right?
Like Payday 3 was a huge one of just like everybody's got Game Pass, so let's just check it out.
I guess if we talk about, I'll bring this up with my brothers too. If we talk about it, I was like, look, I forget what the exact price is on the Ultimate one, but let's just call it $15 right now.
It's $15 a month.
It's like, hey, try to get together once a week at least. If you break that up, that's like $3 or $4 a session. That's less than it would cost to go out and get some coffee or something together if we were to get together. And like we're able to kind of sample these games throughout the course of a weekend. We'll see. I mean, the big thing really was like, we're so bopping in and out of Call of Duty. If Call of Duty winds up being on Game Pass in the future, that's $60 right there, maybe $70 right there at that point. And so we'll have to kind of see that could pay for, close to half a year there. So ish. All right. That's going to do it for the news. Emails.
Mm-hmm.
We've got an email address. It's podcast@nextlander.com. 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 Brad Shoemaker.
3 times, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You always got to hit it 3.
I've heard it's the best way to make people remember things.
Uh-huh. What do we got going on in the old email bag?
Let me see here. I had one. Where did it go? Why your inbox is such a nightmare.
That's a good question. Who's that coming from? Brad Shoemaker?
Here it is.
Okay.
Zach in Albany, Oregon. You're on the design team for the PS5. You're asked to add one new feature to the next PlayStation 5 model that makes it a worse experience for the user. What do you add?
Ooh, okay.
I
would make it so that if you buy the optional disk drive add-on, you have to authenticate on the internet before you can use it.
There you go.
Boom,
That's pretty
take
good.
that, Sony.
Yeah.
I would make it so that it periodically forgets your login and you have to log in with your Sony account with your full password using just the controller, and it doesn't support keyboards anymore.
Oh man, like that basically is the eShop on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was reminded as my SD card died and I've been having to go into the eShop to deal with re-downloading games and stuff. like having to do the login every time I open the eShop. Like,
wait, I don't have to do that on my
you don't
Switch.
have to. You can save the password, but there's no way to lock a Switch. So I don't want my.
You're right.
If somebody steals this very portable device, then they can just open it and start buying shit on my credit card.
Fair enough.
So
put parental mode on.
Nintendo should have had. I cannot believe there's not just some basic lock mechanism for a Switch.
All right,
not only is there no lock mechanism, there is no lock mechanism between accounts on the Switch. Just a heads up.
Yeah.
All right, I've got mine.
Okay.
Diagonal stand. And that's the only way you can stand it.
Okay.
It just takes up the most room.
It literally is at an angle, either left or right. Those are your choices.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's good. That's a good one. That's maybe the worst, dumbest thing you could possibly do. Yes.
That's pretty gnarly.
It's pretty bad. USB ports on the bottom would be pretty bad. Let's see, software-wise...
remove the ability to copy save games to USB. Oh, wait, they did that already.
Reverse what happens when you hold the PlayStation button versus when you touch the PlayStation button. They did that.
Remove the ability to hold down the PS button to turn the thing off. I've got a million of them.
What if we just remove the PS button?
Oh...
I don't mind the PS5.
I don't mind it.
PS4 was better. Like, there are only just a few regressions from the PS4 that are just kind of baffling.
Yeah. Make it even taller, but I feel like your diagonal one really takes the size cake on that one. That's the best one.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. All right.
I'm here to ruin lives, man. That's what I do.
Okay, one more. Make a bespoke port for everything. Make it so that why use USB-C? Come up with your own port for every peripheral you want to ever use. We've
named new ports
adapter.
after everyone who was CEO of PlayStation at one time or another. This is the Kutaragi port. This is the Jack Tretton port.
Yeah.
Here's the Jim Ryan port. It yells at you.
This port doesn't work quite right.
Wait, Jim Ryan does not strike me as a yeller at all.
He's got a quiet rage.
It's more of a terseness than a yelling. Yeah.
Yes, a very clipped sort of delivery.
He just looks disappointed in you.
Yes.
I bet he turns very red, like when he's angry. All right, Brad, you got another email?
Sure. Here's one from Cullen. I have this weird obsession with what I call facility games, or games which take place inside one giant facility. That's a pretty good name.
I like Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
And especially ones in which weird science shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Control, Metal Gear Solid 2, Dead Space, and Portal 2 are probably the best examples that I can think of off the cuff. I was wondering if you had any other games, books, movies, or TV
oh my gosh,
that fit into this vibe as well. No, I haven't watched Severance yet, but it's on my list.
Severance does take place outside of a facility, but a lot of it is in that facility.
So sorry, Brad. It was Control. What were the other ones? The examples?
Control,
Portal 2,
Dead Space, and MGS2.
Okay. Like Half-Life count? Half-Life 1 count in there? Or you kind of break out of the facility?
Kind of out of the facility fairly quickly, or a good chunk of that game is outside.
Yeah. Let's see.
Like, I would kind of argue the first Resident Evil is that. I'm sure Cullen does not need to be told about the franchise Resident Evil.
No.
But I mean, it's a mansion, but it's still like setting the like institutional science shit aside. Like, I love this kind of game too. Like, absolutely, like getting to know one big space over the course of the whole game.
BioShock count?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, BioShock original would absolutely count.
I think that fits.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say this person has probably also played BioShock at some point in their life.
Ever heard of this game, BioShock?
Probably going to be hard to recommend games here.
What was that horror game that came out last year? The one that was kind of the PlayStation?
Signalis?
Signalis. Yeah, like that one seems like it mostly takes place in one general location, doesn't it?
You bounce around a little bit.
It, but
yeah, you do bounce around, but it is mostly like if you're talking about get the key card for the elevator so you can go up or down the facility. Yes,
yeah, I think it's in that vein for sure.
I don't know why I have this exact same brand of brain rot apparently, but like I remember when I started playing Control, like how fucking tickled pink I was when I found out, or when I realized, like when it dawned on me, like, oh my god, I'm going to spend the entire game inside this building. That fucking rules.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like I don't know why that's so exciting, but it totally is.
Let's see. trying to think what else. Inside Soma?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Soma is not a bad one. I mean,
That's not a bad one at all.
You do a bunch of like undersea ocean floor walks, but it basically is just one big undersea base the whole game.
Yeah, you're more or less trapped in the same general zone for almost all of that game. So
also very much meets the weird science shit requirement.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yes.
Soma's so good.
It's a real good one.
Soma's pretty good. Okay, good. I'm glad I got one.
There are some good suggestions, I think. And if you've already played all those, well, look, we tried.
There are no other games.
Yeah.
Are there any? No. Everything I think of, at some point you start off and then you go outside of a thing. There's got to be some more.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I mean, look, did I think of everything in the instant this question was posed to me? No.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a lot of stuff out there, and those are some good starting points. Definitely check out Signalis. I think that might be in the wheelhouse of what they're looking for. Yeah,
especially if you like that type of gameplay. Brad, we got another one. Oh, you know what? Look, I don't know. Wait, maybe this was in the original question. Did they say Dead Space?
Yes.
No.
No, they
did
say
they?
Dead Space.
That was in the original. Okay.
Dead Space 2.
What's the Dead Space, not Dead Space game that just came out?
Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, Callisto Protocol.
Kind of there.
There's also that Dead Space remake.
Dead Space remake. Yeah, there was that game, Fort Solis, kind of is that game, but it's that's gonna come down to do you like that kind of gameplay or not, which is maybe you.
What was that game that you played a quick look of some years ago that was on that like moon or space base where you were controlling a lot of the cameras around the environment?
Oh, it starts with an O.
Observation?
Is it just
Observation?
Is it just Observation?
Because there's Observer, which is a totally different game. That's from that's the Rutger Hauer game.
Yeah, that is Observation.
Yeah. Would that fall into that category, you think?
I think so. I mean, that's space station stuff. That's like almost a subcategory of those things. Like that deliver us the moon, deliver us.
Yeah.
But
I remember Observation being pretty novel.
Yeah, that was all right. That's a fun game. Like, yeah, being trapped on a space station. That's System Shock.
I love to be trapped on a space station.
Who wouldn't want to be trapped?
Heard about a game called Alien Isolation?
There you go. All right, Brad, you got one more?
Yeah.
At least one.
Should we talk about in-home game streaming or should we talk about Wendy O. Williams?
Both.
Those are two very different emails.
They are.
Maybe we'll save the
Wendy
other
O.
one.
Williams.
Maybe we'll get to that one next week.
Okay.
Here's one from Doug. I was listening to the most recent Ramblecast and the discussion about streaming games to devices within the home. I'm redoing my garage to be a game/nerd room and was having trouble getting the Steam Deck and other devices to do exactly what I wanted. As part of the work I've done, I've installed a couple of Cat6 cables to each of my devices in the house. What I've decided to do instead is use a KVM over IP box. He included a link to a Triplite box that he's looking at. This is a pretty interesting idea. There are a bunch of different brands of these, but basically you can extend an HDMI and some USB ports for controllers and such over a single Cat6 cable. This one is 4K 60, which is plenty for me. I'll simply be patching the box located at my computer over a Cat6, patching it together at the patch panel that will be at my new projector, and I'll be good to go. Just a couple of hotkey and monitor configurations away from doing exactly what I want.
I'm so curious about this because I feel like, Brad, you're a little more into this world than I am, but like there's latency issues.
Yeah, my only this sounds really interesting and promising, but I mean if it's for remote computer use actually having used some, in fact I have a Pi KVM, which is a form of IP KVM right here. Like I would want to try to evaluate it for latency before you commit to doing game stuff over it, because some remote KVM stuff is like, good enough to get on the machine and do whatever maintenance stuff needs to be done to reboot this server or whatever, but might not be performant or, low latency enough to play games through. I don't know. I actually do not know. I would be curious. I'd be curious to hear.
I guess maybe it would come down to what kind of signal processing is happening along that whole chain, right? Can it stay native along whatever encoding that HDMI signal is through the Cat6, out the other end of the box, back into the HDMI, or does it have to convert that signal a couple of times? And I feel like that's where you'd wind up. I also wonder if I can get these with Cat 5e, because I think that's what's running to my garage. Or Cat 6, I think, has an extra wire or two in it, right?
I can't remember what the physical difference is. I mean, 5e is also pretty, like, I think 6, the only real advantage is when you're going over crazy long runs, like way longer than you're probably doing.
That's cool, though. Like, I've got 2 drops in my garage. One I was just going to dedicate to a router. Wireless, like a access
switch.
point. Yeah, well, to an access point. The other one was going to go into a switch, but there's really no reason, I think, why I couldn't put the access point on the switch and dedicate a one-to-one.
Oh, yeah, you definitely could do that.
Yeah, I don't know if these things probably can't come out of a switch, I would assume. I bet they want to be direct line, between the 2 boxes, I assume. I don't know why I'm assuming that. It's just other stuff I've had that goes over stuff like this usually wants a direct connection and not to be routed through anything or go through a switch. Which, makes the routing a little harder. But yeah, if I could, because when I'm in the garage, if I could hit basically to stream stuff to another computer, have it on a remote thing in my basement would be awesome. And it's basically, but I want a physical connection between what I'm outputting and the streaming machine. I don't want to do it over NDI or anything like that. So, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that could be a thing too, where like a couple of milliseconds of delay on the stream is not going to break anything. Rack everything, remote and rack, baby. I looked these up. I saw that email. I looked some of these up, and I was like, that's an interesting solution. And that I'm curious if people have done this, what their A, if it just works in general, the tech, and B, are there qualities of this tech where it's like, okay, look, some of these are better than others, Yeah.
So. It seems like there's just going to be more and more like demand for stuff like this because A, nobody wants to have to build 2 PCs. Like, come on. As expensive as PC stuff is getting, you can't necessarily just build a second one to put under your TV. But so many games on PC are of a console-like nature now.
Yeah.
Where you want to sit on a couch and play them as if they are a console. So more ways of having a PC somewhere in the house and getting that to whatever room would certainly be welcome.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that too, not only are building the PC is expensive, getting a video card under your TV, a full-size video card under your TV is you're putting a big old tower under your you can get the mini PC that can go under there, but if you want that full-size graphics card,
I have seen people figure out ways to get 4090s into small form factor cases, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, you got to be at least the width of the card at that point, right?
Oh yeah.
Or are they snapping the card in weird places, breaking off fans and things?
Like they're water cooling them in some cases. I mean, there are also just like smaller cards that are made specially for that purpose.
Man, like notebook cards or like.
Also, the weird thing about 4090s is like all the ones that came out at launch were like fucking huge, and now the same manufacturers are putting out smaller versions of the cards.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I haven't looked. Have card prices come down much at all?
No.
Oh, man.
Those are not going anywhere. I mean, like Jensen Huang, the head of NVIDIA, like basically drew a line in the sand 3 years ago, where he more or less said, like, these are the new prices for GPUs, get used to it.
Ugh.
So that's
love it.
That is not necessarily just a.
So that's like what, like $600 or $700 plus investment?
Yeah, like
to get in.
Well, I mean, there are lower end cards, but as we're seeing with Alan Wake 2, like there are trade offs there.
Man. All right, man, that's a little bit of a bummer. I was thinking about getting a new card for one of my virtual PCs here to just have it dedicated on it, but not at that price. Kids can play Baldur's Gate on this old card over here. All right, I think that's going to do it for the emails. Thanks everybody for writing in. You can send them in to podcast@nextlander.com. I was just going to bring up what is coming up on the release calendar here. We got a Planorama coming up in a couple of weeks here, but I haven't really dug to see if anything else has popped up on the November calendar. Last time I looked, it was fairly slim.
It is possible. It is not even possibly. It is definitely the slowest November I have ever seen.
It's not much
for releases. It's Call of Duty. I mean,
it's not nothing.
I always feel weird rattling off the games that I think are notable because inevitably there's stuff I'm skipping that other people are very interested in. So
that's what the Planorama's for.
This is still just kind of like GameSpot voice talking here of what are the games that would definitely get reviewed. But, it's Call
Duty.
There's that Super Mario RPG remake.
WarioWare.
Yeah, WarioWare. Yes.
We said it before, but the Like a Dragon Gaiden comes out.
Yes, I did actually keep forgetting about that one because, that is an older release in Japan.
Talos Principle 2 is coming out.
Talos Principle 2, sure.
RoboCop.
Yes, I guess RoboCop somehow managed to become notable.
Look, against all odds, that demo was pretty good.
Yeah, there's not nothing, but like Persona 5 Tactica, I forgot that was on the list.
Apparently, Flashback 2 is still slated to come out in November. Look, somebody who will never relinquish hope for a good new Flashback. But anyway, it's fine because I got plenty of stuff going on. But if you really want to knock your socks off, go look at December. Not that December was ever jam-packed with stuff, but currently I have 2 games on our December list. Steam World Build and Avatar.
Yep.
And I'm still assuming Steam World Build will come out on that date, but I don't know. Maybe.
It's fine to me. Like August to October were so strong and chock-a-block with big games. I think it's fun.
Oh, there's plenty of stuff, and I've got plenty of stuff to play. I'm just
we're not out of video games.
No, what I'm saying is next week you might hear a little bit about Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, and Mario Wonder.
Yeah, I don't
go forward. The Invincible, you guys remember that one?
Yes, anyway. Is that good? Like kind of adventure-ish game on Mars?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That looks kind of good. That's in November. Anyway, that's going to do it for the games, the news, the emails, which brings us to what's going on over at Nextlander. We got the Watchcast going on over at Nextlander. We are wrapping up our month of horror. As Brad alluded to, we have watched plenty of horror movies, not horrible, but horror. We just finished recording a Train to Busan, which will be up on Monday of this coming, after this podcast, I should say. Over on the Watchcast. That's over on the Patreon stream. And then, Alex, we are switching gears again on the old Watchcast.
Yes, we are. And you will find the announcement for what we are switching gears to at the end of that episode that is going up this Monday.
So you can check that out over at patreon.com/Nextlander. Sounds like things are still being worked out, hopefully being worked out with the SAG strike. So we are going to continue down the road of some let's say, Hollywood studio films. And so you can...
For at least one more month, if not longer. We'll see how it goes.
Gotta find out what happened to Coop.
He's still out there, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, it's been that gut. He's been holding it.
Yeah. Just waiting. It's exactly what the people who watched it back in the 1990s had to go through.
How long did they have to wait?
All summer.
Okay, look, are we closing in? Are we approaching?
We're at 2 months now. I think one more and change, and then we'll be at the same wait period.
Okay, we're just trying to recreate the vibe.
Absolutely, we're trying to bring the hype back.
You can check that out over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We can also find a tier there to support us. Plenty of tiers there. We thank everybody who makes this possible. All the streams, all the
tiers
podcasts.
of the kingdom, the tiers of our empire.
That's right. It's look, I'm not saying it's an empire.
But it's a going concern. We did agree on that.
You can go there, find a tier that's right for you, and that fits your lifestyle. Thank you very much. There is one tier there, though, that gets their names read on this here show. And Alex Navarro, would you do the honor of reading those mysterious benefactors for this week?
I think I can. Our mysterious benefactors for this week are Ryan Waterman, RRE. The Heebies of a man's GB is stonier, Lewis. John Richardson, Vornak. Infelicitous Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Midsize Haunted Hoodoo Voodoo, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deirdre wishes Liz the Mod a happy engagement, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, $, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Brains, Razgriz Boo, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Teepkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clemens Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thank you to all of them, and thank you to everyone who has gone over to patreon.com/Nextlander and supported us. It's where a majority of our support comes from. We can't thank you enough. Again, making everything here possible. Also making possible our stream tomorrow, our Patron's Choice stream, where we will have Abby Russell and Rich Gallup joining us to play through some of Jackbox's 10. And we'll get some fibbage in there as well. Do love a game of fibbage. So check that out tomorrow. Thanks to the patrons who voted for that. On Friday, our plan is to jump into some Alan Wake 2. That release is on Friday, so we're going to check that out. Probably start near the beginning-ish, I would say. You know, don't want to have any spoilers there for everybody just kind of getting into it. But Alan Wake 2 is available on Friday.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that's going to be on Game Pass. Is it? It's not, right?
No, definitely
It's like
not.
stuck in my head that this is like a Microsoft.
No, that is
Game
it's
Pass
not.
thing.
that is an Epic published game. As a matter of fact.
Epic.
Like they funded it, so that means it will probably never come to Steam.
I guess that's true.
Probably
true.
not.
Probably not. So you can check that out on Friday. And then later on, hopefully in a couple of weeks here, we'll have another Never Been a Better podcast, but you can still check out all of those over on our Patreon, along with the Ramblecast, along with the current Watchcast, along with the Planorama, along with the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
There is
All that
plenty.
shit, man.
Look, even if the game releases might be feeling like they're drying up, plenty of stuff over in the Nextlander universe. The Nextlander universe, that's what it is.
The Galaxy.
We're all kings of the Nextlander Galaxy universe.
Yes.
So come join us over there. Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad Shoemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be back next week.